Margaret Chen, 67 years old, stared at her bedroom ceiling on a Tuesday morning, dreading the 15-minute struggle it would take to get out of bed. Her legs felt like someone had poured cement into them overnight, and sharp needles shot from her heels to her knees with every step. The bathroom, just 12 feet away, required a carefully mapped route through furniture she could lean on, and she hadn't been able to walk the 47 feet to her mailbox in 3 days. Looking at a photo of her granddaughter Emma's soccer team, Margaret cried quietly, having missed 3 games that month because she couldn't stand long enough to watch. That afternoon, Dr. Morrison examined her legs for barely 4 minutes before dismissing her concerns as normal aging for someone 67, prescribing expensive $85 compression socks and suggesting assisted living pamphlets. Margaret drove home devastated but determined to find another way, throwing the assisted living pamphlet in the trash with force. The next morning, watching from her kitchen window, she saw her 71-year-old neighbor Rosa Martinez jogging past carrying grocery bags. The same Rosa who'd been in a wheelchair 6 months ago, after hip surgery complications. Margaret struggled 8 minutes to walk 30 feet to the fence, where Rosa revealed her transformation came from meeting James, a physical therapist whose 89-year-old grandmother walked better than both of them thanks to 5 simple exercises she did every morning. Rosa returned that afternoon to teach Margaret the exercises: ankle pumps flexing and pointing feet 30 times, heel raises holding a counter, 15 reps, 3 times daily. Marching in place during TV commercials, 2-minute intervals, toe taps while sitting, 50 per foot, and leg swings holding a doorframe, 10 forward and back per leg. Margaret could barely manage 10 ankle pumps before cramping, but Rosa encouraged her, explaining she'd started with only 5. Over the next 3 days, Margaret noticed her feet feeling warmer by Thursday, and by Friday the usual tingling faded by 10 in the morning instead of lasting until noon. Saturday morning brought a breakthrough no concrete feeling in her legs, and she walked to the coffee maker without holding furniture. By day 7, exactly 1 week after the dismissive doctor's appointment, Margaret woke without numb feet and completed the full exercise routine: 30 ankle pumps without stopping, 15 perfect heel raises, 2 full minutes of marching during commercials. She walked to her mailbox those impossible 47 feet, retrieved 5 days of mail, and walked back without stopping, prompting neighbor Bill Thompson to comment she looked 10 years younger. Day 10 brought the ultimate triumph as Margaret drove to Emma's soccer game, walked 200 feet to the bleachers, and stood for the entire 90 minutes watching Emma score her first goal ever. Her daughter Sarah arrived late from work, shocked to see her mother standing and cheering, dismissing the transformation as probably just placebo effect, but Margaret knew better. Placebo didn't last 90 minutes. That Sunday, as Margaret did her exercises while watching the news, her sister Helen called from Toronto in tears, having fallen twice that week and facing assisted living tours the next month at only 72 years old. Helen, always the stronger sister, now used a walker full-time and couldn't shower alone. Her doctor convinced she belonged in a facility. Margaret immediately booked a $478 flight for Thursday, despite not having flown in 5 years due to fear of blood clots, determined to teach Helen the exercises that had saved her own life. Margaret spent Monday through Wednesday intensifying her exercise routine, practicing ankle pumps every 2 hours and buying compression socks as backup for the flight despite hating them. Rosa drove her to the airport Thursday morning, where Margaret did heel raises at the gate and ankle pumps every 20 minutes during the 5-hour flight, even teaching the exercises to a businessman seated beside her, who complained his legs always went numb when flying. Landing in Toronto at 5 o'clock, Margaret took a taxi to Helen's building, climbed 3 flights of stairs when the elevator was broken, and found her sister hunched over a walker, barely able to shuffle 12 feet to the kitchen, her apartment filled with grab bars and medical alert buttons. Friday morning, Margaret began teaching Helen, who could only manage 5 ankle pumps before severe cramping, her ankles barely moving as her muscles had forgotten how to work. By Saturday, Helen managed 8 pumps and felt warmth in her feet. And by Sunday she accomplished 10 complete pumps without cramping and walked 12 feet to the kitchen without her walker for the first time in 3 months. Monday through Thursday showed steady progress. Helen managed 20 feet in the hallway, walked to the mailroom 42 yards away with 2 rest stops. and by day 7 cancelled her assisted living tour appointment, doing 20 ankle pumps, 15 heel raises, and 30 seconds of marching in place. On day 8, while Helen and Margaret exercised in the building lobby, Mrs. Patterson from 3B approached, amazed to see Helen standing without her walker, and soon Mr. Rodriguez in his wheelchair rolled up, listening intently as Helen explained how 8 days ago she couldn't stand without support. Building manager Tom offered the community room for regular sessions, and by Saturday, 12 residents aged 72 to 86 attended, with Margaret demonstrating all 5 exercises, while Helen shared her transformation story. The following Tuesday, 18 residents packed the community room when Jennifer Martinez from Toronto Morning News arrived with a camera crew, interviewing Margaret about the 10-day transformation that had already helped dozens. The segment aired Wednesday morning with the headline, "Local Senior Citizens Discovering 5 Simple Exercises May Transform Mobility in Just 10 Days," immediately generating 17 calls and 43 emails, while the online video garnered 47,000 views by Thursday morning. The Thursday session drew 30 people, including visitors from other buildings, with news crews from 3 stations wanting their own stories, but Friday morning disaster struck when Margaret, rushing to answer another interview request, tripped over Helen's cat Mr. Whiskers. She twisted to avoid crushing him, landing hard on her right knee with an audible pop, and emergency room x-rays revealed a torn meniscus, requiring 6 to 8 weeks recovery, with no weight-bearing exercises allowed. By Saturday morning, Margaret's circulation problems returned immediately: cold feet, numb toes, the familiar concrete feeling, and even tiny ankle pumps sent shooting pain through her knee. The community exercise group met Monday without her, but only 4 people attended and the session fell apart after 10 minutes, hope proving fragile and easily broken. Margaret video called Emma to say she'd missed the championship game, and Sarah called that evening to say, "I knew those exercises would hurt you eventually," while Margaret lay in bed staring at the exercise list on the wall, wondering if it had all been temporary luck. Thursday afternoon, James the physical therapist arrived at Helen's door with his 90-year-old grandmother Dorothy, who walked in without any assistance despite having started these exercises at 75 after 2 knee replacements. Dorothy explained she'd modified the exercises through everything: pneumonia, broken ribs, shingles, never stopping a single day in 15 years. Then demonstrated how to do ankle pumps lying flat with no knee involvement, allowing Margaret to complete 10 pumps as her feet immediately began warming. James showed additional modifications: toe points with barely engaged calves, seated heel raises using arms to support weight instead of knees, and over the next days, Margaret did 50 ankle pumps without knee pain, while Dorothy taught Helen new variations and shared how she'd exercised secretly in her hospital bed after hip surgery at 82. By Tuesday, the community room filled with 28 residents who'd come to check on Margaret, and Dorothy stunned everyone by demonstrating all 5 exercises with perfect form at 90 years old, then knelt beside Mr. Rodriguez's wheelchair and helped him do ankle pumps until his paralyzed feet moved slightly for the first time in a year. Dr. Patel, the building doctor, visited Wednesday to observe, eventually joining the class himself, while Thursday brought Professor Williams from the university with 6 graduate students to measure the group's remarkable improvements. 73% better ankle flexibility, and 81% improved balance scores in just 30 days. By week 5 Monday morning, Margaret's knee swelling had completely disappeared and she could walk without support, leading her orthopedic surgeon to declare the healing unprecedented as X-rays showed 3 months of healing in just 5 weeks. Margaret flew home to Portland that Saturday with Rosa waiting at the airport holding a welcome home sign, reporting 8 neighbors wanting to learn the exercises. Margaret printed 500 exercise guides, including Dorothy's modifications for injuries and wheelchairs, then spoke at Emma's school wellness fair, where 43 grandparents immediately signed up for weekly classes. Within 3 months, Margaret was teaching at 4 locations: school, senior center, church, and community center, reaching 200 people monthly, with Rosa co-leading Saturday hiking groups that had grown from 5 people walking 1 mile to 15 people hiking 3 miles at Mount Hood. Helen visited Portland, flying alone and walking the entire airport, reporting Toronto's group had grown to 60 members, with the building converting the entire first floor to exercise space. Margaret became certified as a senior fitness instructor at 68, the oldest in her certification class, while local news did a follow-up story on the exercise revolution started by one grandmother. Sarah admitted she'd started the exercises 6 weeks ago when her feet got cold and could now run again at 42, while community emergency room visits decreased 18% and assisted living admissions dropped 24%. Margaret's notebook documented 1,047 people helped with 312 thank you letters, and the Canadian government announced plans to fund the program for all senior centers nationwide. 1 year later at Emma's 9th birthday party, Margaret played tag with 6 grandchildren for 45 minutes and won the 3-legged race with Emma against younger parents, then received an email from a 74-year-old woman in Sydney, Australia, who'd been wheelchair-bound for 2 years until finding the exercises online and would now walk her daughter down the aisle next month. Margaret met with James and Dorothy to plan 12 free online videos covering basic exercises, injury modifications, wheelchair variations, and bed-bound options, funded by Dorothy's 90 years of savings, while a national morning show invited Margaret to New York for their health segment. Standing at her mailbox the same 47 feet once impossible, Margaret placed exercise handouts for the mail carrier with a note saying, "Please share with anyone who needs hope," reflecting on her transformation. From desperate to determined, from dying to thriving, teaching 4 classes tomorrow to reach another 100 people because 10 days was all it took to transform circulation, reclaim life, and begin everything. The revolution that started with one woman who couldn't walk to her mailbox now helping thousands walk freely, with 5 simple exercises creating infinite possibilities and hope for everyone.